So I wanted to start while we're waiting for people to come in and kind of tell you guys a little bit about, you probably both know, but a little bit of my story of why I'm doing this. So I was finishing up the last year of my master's degree in nutrition, and I just kept feeling like there's more to this than food. And there's got to be another piece that I'm missing, because I know, like, not everything there is to know about nutrition, but I knew a lot, and I wasn't finding that I was doing a lot differently than I had done before I learned all this stuff. And so once I started the training to become an eating psychology coach is when it kind of like blew my mind. And I learned a lot of these myths that I'm going to be talking about tonight in that training. And it was so eye-opening. And that's kind of like my mission now, is to kind of spread that news and that truth of freedom around, body image and health and weight loss, and let people know that there's a better way and we don't have to keep doing it the same old way that we have been doing it. So that is why I'm doing this, and I'm really passionate about. So tonight, I'm going to be talking about 3 myths around weight loss and health and how they might be holding you back from reaching your goals. So when I say myth, I mean basically a nice way of saying a lie. So something that's not true, but that a lot of people believe, but something that doesn't really reflect the way things really are. And when it comes to weight loss, particularly, and health and body image, there's a lot floating around out there in kind of our subconscious culture that isn't true, but that we believe, and I think it's to our detriment. So I'm going to go into that a little bit tonight. And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop in and raise your hand. So myth number 1 is that the best way to lose weight is to go on a diet. So if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I'm super anti-diet, and I think diets are the worst thing ever. But if there's anyone listening who is new and doesn't know what I mean by that, let me tell you what I mean by diet. So a diet is a short-term restrictive plan that's focused on cutting calories in order to lose weight. So diets can look a lot of different ways. They can be low calorie overall. They could eliminate certain food groups for weight loss purposes. They could be low fat. They could be low carb. It could be a juice cleanse in order to lose weight. But really the ultimate goal is weight loss. And the downfall of diets is that they are short term. They really encourage you to kind of restrict really intensely and heavily in their chosen way for 7 days or 14 days or 30 days or whatever the case may be. And a lot of diet plans, if you look at diet books and stuff, they do have reintegration components to kind of help you ideally be able to ease back into eating normal food and maintain the weight loss. But unfortunately, that's rarely what happens. Almost always, in my experience personally, and with almost all of the women that I work with, you follow the diet and most likely you will see results. You'll get some sort of weight loss. But then for whatever reason, you're unable to maintain that weight loss and to maintain that lifestyle that you start out thinking this is going to be a lifestyle change, but it's not. And then you go right back to eating your normal way, which is what caused the problem in the first place. And then it's just kind of frustrating. Hey, Mikkel, welcome. So glad you're here. So the problem is not that diets don't work in the short term. They do work in the short term, but then they don't work in the long term. So if you look at the statistics, which is crazy, about 50% of women in America are on a diet at any given time, which is like mind-blowing to me. So 50% of us here in this chat room are on a diet right now. Just kidding. Hopefully you're not. And then even more sad, I think up to 90% of teenage girls diet regularly. And I think that's really sad because they're just setting themselves up for a lifetime of that. So if you look at the numbers of long-term diets, which is long-term speaking, in the studies, they look at long-term as being like 5 years or more about 95% of diets fail, which is like almost all of them. And most dieters will regain all the weight that they lose within a year. Sometimes the weight they lose plus some. So unfortunately, dieting is really seen in our culture as the default method for weight loss. But I don't really know why, because if you look at it, we just keep doing the same thing over and over, looking for a different result. It's maybe a different diet, but it's basically the same song, different verse. So what is the right answer? The antidote to dieting is really what we call lifestyle changes, where you commit to permanently changing the behaviors that are causing your weight gain in the first place. But it's not as simple as that, and there are so many factors that go into that process of changing your life, but ultimately that is the answer. Diets don't work because they are changing your behavior, not changing your mind. So the key to lasting weight loss is really to change your mind, change the way you think, change your perspective and the way that you see the world, and you'll change your life, including the way that you eat. So myth number 2 that I want to talk about, and this is a big one, is that less food plus more exercise equals weight loss. So we have this little equation of less food plus more exercise equals weight loss. So you can raise your hand on the screen if you have ever believed this, and I'm going to raise my hand here because I have absolutely believed this before. Or maybe there are people listening who still believe this or have heard this kind of thrown out as the truth, as the absolute gold standard. And this paradigm of eat less, move more seems to be losing some steam, thankfully, but I think it's still buried pretty deep in our subconscious, in our subconscious as a culture and individually, and it really informs the way that we approach eating overall. And this one, I think, has done more damage than any of the others because it's subjected so many thousands of women to like some pretty miserable experiences, not to mention lots of stress and even adrenal fatigue in a lot of cases. So I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that calories don't matter or that exercise doesn't matter after all, like I have some brand new cutting edge science that it doesn't matter. Calories and exercise do matter. They do. Calories are important, and there's definitely science behind the calories in, calories out idea. But again, it's not as simple as that. Our bodies are not input-output machines. There are so many things that affect our digestion, our assimilation of nutrients, and our metabolism other than just the exact amount of energy we consume and expend. It's not a math problem. But again, this idea of eat less, move more feeds into this dieting paradigm, which I'm really just working so hard to dismantle for everyone within the sound of my voice and show you guys that there's such a better way. And I want to present myself as kind of a case study in the opposite paradigm. I guess not the opposite. It's not like eat more and move less. That's not really true either. But the way I live is not eat less, move more. It's more like eat happy, move happy, which is why I call my business Eat Happy, because I'm so thoroughly convinced that food and exercise should both be things that bring us joy, not misery. And I've been at my fair share of gyms and workout classes in my life. And I can't even possibly begin to count the number of times that I've heard someone, especially fitness instructors, really say things like, hey, push it or work harder so you can burn off whatever you ate yesterday. I remember I was in a class after Thanksgiving and they're like, burn off that turkey. Like exercise is your punishment for eating. And I hate that approach to exercise. I just hate it. I know hate's a strong word, but I really feel like exercise should be fun. It should feel great, and you shouldn't just do it to put yourself into a calorie deficit. There's so much more to exercise than expending calories. Because remember, your body is not an input-output machine. Your metabolism is not a math problem. There's so much more to the equation of weight loss than calories. Less food and more exercise is not only super lame, but it's also sometimes counterproductive, and it can even be harmful. Putting yourself into that mode of starvation when you're really restricting your calories. I don't know if you guys have heard of diets where people are eating, 600 calories a day or some insane thing like that. So you don't ever want to put your body into that starvation mode, because even though you might be seeing the number on the scale go down, it's really doing significant damage inside that you can't see. Plus the fact that it's grinding your metabolism to a screeching halt in the name of saving your life. And your brain really goes into like super stress mode of like conserving your brain at that point. So food and exercise are massively important, of course. And the way that we use them or abuse them can really help us or hinder us in the long term. But restriction is not the royal road to weight loss. So using myself as a case study, I want to tell you a little bit about my experience. So in 2016, I kind of took a year off after a long time of dieting and kind of fighting with myself and trying to lose weight and, shaming myself and dieting and binging and dieting, binging a long time of doing that. I decided that I quit. and I literally said those words, I quit, that I don't even want to lose weight anymore. I don't even care. And I took several months to just be. And I can't even tell you the freedom. I don't want to even get emotional here, but I can't even tell you the freedom that brought to me and how I felt liberated. And it gave me all this mental space to explore and to figure out what worked for me and what didn't work for me. And I didn't worry so much about what I was eating and I exercised just as much as I always had, but I loved it. And I had so much fun doing it. I started, instead of, doing these things that would burn more calories, I started going to yoga and I fell in love with it. I started, trying different things of food-wise just out of my own intuition. And it was an amazing experience to kind of let go of that. And so I took that year to kind of do that emotional work. So when 2017 came around, I felt like I was in a good place. I was in a good mindset. And I decided I was going to approach some new physical goals, including weight loss, but with my new healthier mindset of loving my body how it was and just wanting to stretch myself a little bit further and to reach more of my physical potential. I didn't want to do this anymore. I didn't want to lose weight to look a certain way anymore. I had really gotten rid of that. And that's kind of where a lot of the freedom came from. But I wanted to do this, to embark on this new and improved weight loss journey, I guess, to prove to myself that these things that I had been learning and the things that I really knew to be true, and I believe deep down, that food in my body didn't have to be a battleground. I wanted to prove those things were true and that they worked. So after I had done that deeper emotional work for a year and I felt ready to approach weight loss with this different perspective, I can now say, only a couple months into the year, that I consider myself to really be like a walking success story. I am more confident than I've ever been in my life. I have a wonderfully liberated approach to food. I feel amazing pretty much every day. I move my body and I exercise every day out of freedom instead of out of obligation. I honestly eat what I want. I exercise how I want, and I can't even tell you how great I feel. And I'm not going to go splashing before and after pictures of myself all over, and I don't feel like I need to give numbers because that's not what ultimately matters. What I want you to know is that I'm exactly where I want to be. And I lost weight this year in a relatively short amount of time. I did it with no stress, no pressure, no fighting with myself, and actually very little willpower, which we'll talk about willpower in a little bit. But I proved to myself that these principles that I was teaching of being kind and gentle with myself and of listening to my body wisdom, of learning how to treat myself well, that those things work. They do work. And not only do they lead to more peace and confidence than I've ever felt in my life, but they also let my body be free to reach its own natural, healthy weight. I had wanted to lose weight for so long, but ultimately I realized it wasn't wanting to lose weight that helped me to lose weight. It was letting go and kind of like unclenching that death grip I had on the idea of weight loss and letting go of that eat less, exercise more idea and allowing myself the freedom to really evolve and change in the way that worked best for me. So let me dive into myth number 3. So this is a fun one. Myth number 3 is that willpower is the key to weight loss. So I can't count the number of times I've heard people say, if I just had more willpower, I could lose weight. Or what I really just need is more willpower. Have you guys ever thought that? I used to think that too. But here's the truth. You cannot willpower your way to lasting weight loss or to health of any kind, really. They've done studies on Biggest Loser contestants, and I think this is like so fascinating because we look at the Biggest Loser as like, this is the ultimate American weight loss experience, and they like gut it out and they're super regimented and they're exercising like crazy and they're throwing up and they're crying and people are yelling at them and we're like, yes, go fatty, lose that weight. And then, we get to the finale and everyone's skinny and amazing. So they've done follow-up studies on Biggest Loser contestants, and they're losing massive amounts of weight. They're losing between 100 and 200 pounds. And it's amazing. But if you look at, they did a study 6 years out and they found that most of them had gained the weight back. And so really, this just shows that the body fights back against weight loss and that the sheer force of your willpower is not enough. It's not sufficient to fight back. Your brain is so strong. And if it doesn't want you to lose weight, you're not going to lose weight, which is where this whole thing of like doing the underlying work first comes in. So many of us think that willpower is like the secret weapon of weight loss. And I'm not going to say that willpower doesn't matter. Willpower does play a role in changing our habits, absolutely. The problem is that our willpower is not the only factor at work here. And in our brain, we have a reward system, which is very strong and absolutely necessary to life, that we have essentially programmed over our lifetime to feel more rewarded by food than by anything else. And that reward system in your brain cannot be overridden. You can't like short circuit it no matter what you try. Your brain is hardwired to require reward and pleasure in some form. And because you've probably spent your life turning to food for that reward, or at least years and years and years, that's what your brain has come to expect. And so your brain kind of prompts you to continue that behavior. And that's really the definition of a habit. It's something you've been doing for so long that it programs into your brain that it becomes what you do. So you've probably heard that willpower is a muscle. And so you can obviously strengthen your willpower with practice. But like any muscle, it does not have endless capacity. It can give out. It's not an endless power source. And it's actually one of the weakest mental forces that you have, contrary to the popular opinion that willpower is everything. Willpower runs out. It takes vacations. It's very taxing on our brains to rely on willpower. So if you're stressed out, willpower like evaporates. It just goes away. You literally, and maybe you've experienced this, you cannot summon enough willpower to make good decisions in moments of intense stress. And because it just doesn't work. Your willpower cannot be used like that in times of stress. And that's the reason dieting is so difficult, because you're using your willpower, which is so easily fatigued, to fight against those intrinsic reward systems in your brain. It's essentially a losing battle. And another thing is that willpower is actually kind of like a weapon, or maybe more like a shield, I guess is a better analogy. We kind of use willpower to resist the temptation of behaviors or actions that we know are not good for us. So willpower is mentally more draining than a positive energy, like maybe commitment, because willpower is a negative energy. We're often using it to fight against things. And And research has shown and is showing now that positive behavior is more effective in weight loss than willpower. So really stepping out of that negative frame of mind and choosing a more positive outlook is actually a more successful road to weight loss than restriction and dieting. So instead of kind of gripping and white knuckling your way through temptation and telling yourself, I can't have this, I'm not going to do this, I can't do that, you can try channeling that energy in a different way and kind of shifting your mindset a little bit. You could spend that energy that you're using to fight against yourself, use that instead to make decisions that will support you. So instead of focusing on what you can't do, think of what you can do. And just that simple shift in perspective of these are the things that I can eat, instead of I can't have carbs, I can't have that bowl of pasta. Think I can have that, but I choose not to. Or I can have a little bit, and then I'm also going to have this that I know will serve me better. And just that little shift in perspective takes that stress response out of it. It allows your brain to really calm down and not be at war with you over the food. And by doing that, you're choosing to be rewarded by nourishing yourself and by choosing the food that you eat, rather than fighting all day against like a piece of cake or something and then just throwing up your hands in desperation and giving in and then feeling guilty afterwards. So along with your willpower, which is, of course, a component here, and you should strengthen it through, practice and daily decisions, but you can also use other strategies. Don't rely on willpower as the magic key to weight loss, because it's not. So one other great strategy that I like to use on myself is distraction. And it's almost like dealing with a toddler because sometimes our brains are like very childish. So you can try distracting yourself with a different pleasure other than the food. Like I like to read a good book, or you could turn on your favorite song or whatever. Do something that you love doing that kind of takes your mind off that battle over eating the food. If you can get mentally engaged in something else, like a toddler, they're like, I want the cookie. You're like, but don't you want this toy? Like you can do that to your own brain, and you can you can use that tactic with yourself, and it actually does work. And I had a friend ask me the other day about this, so I wanted to address this tonight too. If you've ever found yourself being good all day and, resisting the junk food, and then it gets to be nighttime and you're like, forget it, and you binge on like ice cream or chips or whatever, that's partially because you maybe have exhausted your willpower. And that can be the same thing for, if you're good all week and then you get to Friday night and you're like, woo, eat all the things all weekend long, and you feel like out of control on the weekend. Oh, sorry, we just got an Amber Alert. So if you've exhausted your willpower by being so good and you have no other strategies, you can't lean on that to get you through. And so at the end of the day, if you find yourself weakened or drained of willpower, you can find something else other than willpower to get you through that situation. You could change up your routine so you don't fall into that same habit of like late night junk food, and find something else that can make you happy. So the 3 myths are, to sum it up: 1, the best way to lose weight is to go on a diet. 2, less food plus more exercise equals weight loss. And 3, willpower is the key to weight loss. So being able to see those beliefs for what they are, these beliefs that you may have thought were true for most of your life, being able to see them for the lies that they are can really set you free from so much of the stress and guilt that you might have around your body image or your weight loss efforts or your health in general. Really, the most important aspect of weight loss, or any health goal at all, is changing the way that you think. So surrender your weapons of war against yourself. Like, put down your weapons and stop thinking of food and exercise and healthy habits as a battleground to fight against yourself. Stop dieting and learn to really eat in a way that you can sustain for the rest of your life. You should not feel the need to restrict yourself and engage in punishing exercise in order to reach your goals. There are other ways and there are other methods that actually work. So I hope you can see that there is a better way here. So I'm going to open it up for question and answer in just a minute. But before we do, I want to tell you guys about a project I've been working on for a long time. And it's finally finished, and I'm super, super excited about it. I thought tonight would be a good place to announce this to the people who've been, kind of supporting me and following me and being excited about my message. So if you are someone who's been watching my videos or following me and you've felt like you like the things I'm saying and they're helpful to you, but you're not ready to commit to like one-on-one coaching with me, which is up until this point all that I really offered, I have a new option for you, a new product. So if you're ready to kind of take the next step and go to the next level and dive a little bit deeper into these concepts that I've talked about tonight, this is for you. So I wrote an online course that I've really kind of poured my heart and soul into, and is really a distillation of all the things that I feel like are most important in my message and the things that I'm most passionate about teaching. Really the things that have made the biggest difference in my life. And the framework of this course was actually my thesis paper that I wrote for my master's degree in nutrition. So I promise it's all very well researched and thorough. So my course is called Nourish. It's a 6-week online course that's designed to teach you how to care for yourself. And I like to use the phrase body and soul because it's not just about food. So in the course, I do cover nutrition and food, but I also go into some of the deeper principles of eating psychology that I really feel are the missing piece in the nutrition world. So since you're here with me tonight, I wanted to give you guys an opportunity, and let me pull up this slide that I have here. So there's a slide with the prices on it, and I have the website at the bottom listed where you can go to get more information about the course. So the course is digital, it's all online, and it's just, you can work through it at your own pace, but I'm also going to be starting a group coaching program. And this will kind of be an opportunity to work through the course with a group of women and have live coaching calls with me along the way as you go through the course to help you kind of understand and implement the course material a little bit more. So if you're interested in that group coaching community, there's a code that you can use, group 20, and you can get 20% off the group coaching package for the next 48 hours starting right this minute. So it's 48 hours because this group coaching community is actually going to start on Monday, May 6th. And I wanted to get people in there who are excited and ready to go right now. And that link, you can also go to eathappynutrition.com to go to the course. So you can go to the website to learn more about the course. There's, more information on there. But yeah, I'm super excited about it. If you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out in any way you want, and I'm happy to answer them. But I think it's going to be an amazing experience. So, okay, there's that. And now let's jump into question and answer. If you guys have any questions or comments, you can pop them in the chat box, or you can raise your hand.